to welcome as our first speaker, Sue Cullen, who is an AP civics teacher and American history teacher at Bethlehem High School, who's going to give us Democracy 101.
Good evening. My name is Susan Cullen, as Linda said, and I teach at Bethlehem Central High School. Microphone. I teach AP World History and Global Studies. I also have taught U.S. History and Government, more affectionately known as USHAG, to regents and at-risk level students. I'm happy to be here as a participant in this teach-in for democracy. Linda Lane and I were talking at our son's soccer game when the topic of civic education came up. Linda knew that I had taught this topic in school, and she expressed concern at this situation unfolding here at RPI. And so we spoke, perhaps that was some kind of commentary on the state of civics education in our country at large, really. And I mentioned a recent report in my son's college newspaper that the freshmen at his university were more informed. They were better informed on civics. And when I say civics, I mean the responsibilities, the duties of a citizen, than were the seniors. And so I found this really troubling news, certainly as a parent, but also as a teacher, thinking, boy, what's the retention level of this important information, but also as a citizen. Because if seniors in college have forgotten a lot of their civics, what does that say about us 5 and 10 years out of college? Immediately, so I found this to be troubling news, and Linda asked me would I be willing to contribute to a discussion on democracy, and I said yes. And immediately I knew what I would choose as a topic. The document that I chose is the basic foundation for democratic principles and civic duty in this country, and that's the Declaration of Independence. It's a copy of which is in your packet. It's written by Thomas Jefferson. There was some input by John Adams and Benjamin Franklin. There was certainly also some editing by the Continental Congress. And the occasion for its publication, as many of you know, was when the Continental Congress finally decided to break with the Crown of England. They were going to make this announcement. But also they were establishing their rationale, their justification for what they were about to undertake, which of course was the revolution. Now, the structure and organization of the Declaration of Independence is simple but effective. The equality of everyone is the opening premise. Jefferson then establishes the purpose of government, which is to secure the inalienable, and what he means by that word is something that cannot be transferred or taken away. So the purpose of government is to secure the inalienable rights of its citizens to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Power to govern is derived from the consent of the governed, something that we refer to as popular sovereignty. Now, this idea of popular sovereignty dated back to England's very own John Locke back in the 17th century. One of the self-evident truths that Jefferson quickly articulates is the right of people to abolish, alter, or institute a new government should the existing government implement a policy that is destructive of our natural rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness that government was designed to protect. So the very first document, and really the two major documents for our government are the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. The very first one, right off, establishes not only the responsibilities of government, but the duties of citizens to change that government if it fails in its duty. Changing government should not be done for temporary small problems. Jefferson explains that people are inclined to suffer rather than switch governments. It's only after a long train of abuses by a despotic government that it really becomes the duty of a citizen to throw off such a government. In fact, he's going to say something along the lines that he thinks there should be a revolution every 20 years, with the whole goal of keeping the government accountable. After this, he proceeds to list the grievous offenses of the King of England that the King of England has committed against the American colonies, and I'm not going to go into great detail on this list. Suffice to say that it was stuff like quartering troops in people's homes, taxation without representation, suspending legislatures, things like that. At the conclusion of this, Jefferson declares the United States of America to be free and independent states no longer owing allegiance to the British Crown. To summarize, and as a teacher and as a parent, I repeat myself all the time, understanding the content and the purpose of the Declaration of Independence is vital to understanding how our democracy works and how it's meant to work. Within it is a straightforward description of the rights of all humans and government's responsibility to protect them, and the citizens' duty to make political changes should the government fail in its duties. Now, Jefferson did not claim originality, but stated that he was writing based on commonly held political beliefs of the colonists. He will mention George Mason's Declaration of Rights for the State of Virginia, which says very similar things. And of course, Locke's Second Treatise on Government from England in 1690. This is a document that reflects the views of the Founding Fathers and has been an inspiration certainly for subsequent reform movements in the United States, as well as abroad. Jefferson will write that the purpose of the Declaration of Independence was not to find out new principles or new arguments never before thought of, but to place before mankind the common sense of the subject in terms so plain and firm as to command their assent, and to justify ourselves in the independent stand that we are compelled to take. Again, later leaders, the leaders of the French Revolution, including the Marquis de Lafayette, who helps write them, will look to our Declaration of Independence to help him compose the Declaration of the Rights of Man in 1789. Lucretia Mott and Elizabeth Cady Stanton, right here in our state of New York, in 1848 used Jefferson's words as a framework for their Declaration of Sentiments regarding equal rights for women. And of course, the UN will do so as well in 1948 for the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Historian Howard Zinn tells us in his book, Declarations of Independence, that democracy relies upon the concept that the vital decisions of society are well within the capacity, well within the capability of the ordinary citizen. They can and should make these decisions, as it is the citizen who best understands their own interests, more so than quote-unquote experts. He then offers an illustration of what can happen if this principle of participation is rejected. In 1975, Samuel Huntington, a Harvard political scientist and advisor to the president, wrote a report for the Trilateral Commission, which was a commission of business and government leaders from the United States and Japan and Europe, and he was offering his assessment of the teach-ins and the activism of the 1960s anti-war movement. And he wrote, "The essence of the democratic surge of the 1960s was a general challenge to the existing systems of authority, public and private. His concern was that an excess of democracy might cause the U.S. to lose dominant global position. Hence, there might be desirable limits